Go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back again to the Football Uncensored podcast with myself, Rob Kirton, and John Sitton. Going for it this evening. We're going to get a match ball. Not too sure who's going to have it. I'll probably give it to John. I'll probably give it to John. But we're going to continue with the Euros theme in England. Try and make this episode a bit more of a Q&A. We've had a couple of episodes of tactical analysis, background analysis, all sorts from John, quite frankly. But we're going to try and make this one a bit of Q&A, bit more back and forth. We'll see how we go.
Over to you, mate. Ask me what you want. Not bothered. Been there, seen it, done it. Never got the medal or the T-shirt though.
Okay. Well, for this episode, we will stick to the theme. Maybe in future, I'll accept that open invitation. But for the time being, England and Euros. For your money, assuming we get there, which we probably will, given your thoughts and mine and most others, that we generally get a bye in the qualifiers. Next World Cup, I think it's the States and Mexico. From the current squad, who's going, who's not?
What a good question. Good question. I'll scratch the surface in terms of my own sort of thoughts. And I asked a question on Twitter, is it so-and-so, last tournament? Pickford could probably still be around. Stones possibly could still be around. I think it'd be 31. It'd be 30 or 31 in 2026. Walker, we know, is a physical freak, a physical phenomenon. But I'd say no. Apart from anything else for tactical reasons. Trippier, no. Luke Shaw's 27. I think you peak at 28. You probably peak at 28. So he'd be knocking around the 30 mark. So that's 50-50.
Got to stay fit.
Yeah, Mainu definitely. Although he's got to get better, which he will do. He had a couple of really good patches in a couple of games, and he was really good in one particular game. Declan Rice, yeah. Saka, yeah. Now we've got a problem. I did say a while back, and if people can be bothered to have subscribed and been loyal and watched us, even if they don't agree with it, even if they think I'm talking codswallop, which I rarely do, I never do. And inevitably, when you think about it and go deep enough like I do, you find that I'm right. I said we're going to have a dearth of talent at centre-back and centre-forward. We've got a dearth of talent at centre-back and centre-forward. So we're lucky in the respect that Gueye came through and acquitted himself well. He looks like he could be a permanent fixture. I did say after a few performances that Konsa would go. I'm not sure about the Liverpool guy, his age. And he can play in one or two different positions. But your next port of call in terms of important position that's a problem is centre forward. I think he's shown he's never been the quickest Harry, but he's been I wouldn't say he's a world-class player, but I would say he's a world-class finisher that you could argue makes him a world-class player. My definition of a world-class player is if you name a world 11 who plays in that position. All right. And I think in his prime, he possibly could have done, who plays centre forward for a world 11. If you're playing a team from Mars or the Venus intergalactic 11 and you put a world 11 up against them, it's whatever player is the best player in that position to represent this planet. And there might have been a time when he was the best, probably the best centre forward on the planet, but I don't think that's the case now. In actual fact, I go as far as say he's quite a way off it in terms of attributes. And if you don't, as was shown in this championship, if you don't get the supply, he's ineffective. It's all very well buying fouls, winning fouls, Yeah, I mean, so it's it's an inevitability. I'm not sure but I think his birthday's in May. I'm not sure if he turned 30 this May or 29. Either way, it's going to make him around the 32 mark at the next the USA Mexico Canada World Cup, or USA Mexico World Cup. So he might well be past it. So a lot of predicted we're going to have a dearth of talent, and it might be a case of uh, trying something different, like the
Yeah.
Continentals did, false nines and what have you.
Well, fair to say there could be a few changes to the starting 11 in terms of, as you've just illustrated, um, age, passing the torch, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Also, the thing that we're deliberately not going to touch on. I know it seems silly, but you've done it on with Alan Hudson earlier today with the new manager. Obviously, a new manager is probably going to have new ideas about tactics and players. So we'll leave that angle because everyone can watch that on the other platform. But fair to say, one way or the other, probably a reasonable portion of our starting 11 in the Euros final may not be there
If he
when we hopefully get to the next tournament.
Yeah, I mean the draw's always it tends to be kind. I mean, we might probably get it. Our toughest game will probably be an Andorra or a Malta. You know what I mean? Well, that's what it normally is, Rob. It is an early shout for you, right? And if he can leave that poor image behind, people have been accused of foul just as bad. Here's an early shout. He can rehabilitate himself and come back into the fold, because at one time he looked like he was going to be potentially a world-class centre forward, Mason Greenwood, and he's just got the move. So if he can rehabilitate his career, like Les Reed said to me, you need to reinvent yourself. Or from what? Swearing? Overpaid, underachieving mercenaries, and basically running the club single-handed. Blah 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 blah. It's an age-old story now, but yeah, he said to me, "Well, you need to reinvent yourself. If he can reinvent himself and rehabilitate from the accusations and what he's come through in terms of his personal life, then he could make a comeback, and he'd be a massive attribute." Because I'm telling you now, any incoming manager, Rob, very quickly, any incoming manager, probably since Venables. So you got Venables' squad, the Oddle squad. Before Venables, the Robson squad was very good. The Venables squad, very good. The Oddle squad, very good. Ericsson squad, very good. Capello, very good. This one, very good. Then I think it's going to we might be unlucky enough to start to see a bit of a decline in terms of, and people are going to go, "You're mad." But you're going to have a lot of people. All right, yeah, we won the under 17 with the under 19, the under this, the under that. So like he said, Lord Hudson said this morning, you're going up a notch. And an England schoolboy international and another under 17 international and an under 21 international, blah blah. It's not the same as this. So we'll see. It could quite possibly, the point I'm going to make, quite feasibly, quite tangible, that this could be one of the worst squads that a manager's inherited over the next 2 years, unless it just keeps with the same players. I don't really see anyone tearing up trees to come through. They could bring back a Grealish. They could bring in a Maddison. Mason Greenwood, I've mentioned as a centre forward. He, at one time, physically everything, finishing, technique, finding the corners. I thought it was impeccable. Definitely, like, it was Man United standard. Then it went off the rails. Yeah. So, other than that, it's going to be your Watkins, your Tonys. You might stick with Harry for another 2 years. I don't know.
A couple of points there. I mean, obviously, Lord Hudson, as you refer to, and I will as well, if that's all right. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to caps through the England levels. Going back to an episode or two previous, we mentioned at the top of episode 1 of this little series, was it right for Southgate to go? And from what you're saying there, yeah, quite possibly he's kind of looking at it and thinking, yeah, looking at it in terms of players and thinking, yeah, I've gone as far as I can. Who knows?
Yeah.
Time will tell.
On top of that, Rob, it has to be said very quickly, right? They're all everyone's to blame. The FA are to blame, players are to blame. With regards to something, it was right through the decades. I'm going through the decades now. I'm not just talking about this. The FA are to blame, players are to blame, coaches and managers who've been there are to blame when we've come up short. And dare I say it, media um, and supporters sometimes having it in for and not getting behind. And looking at this championship after one particularly poor performance, I don't care who it is. No one should have to put up with people throwing cups of beer at him. So I'm glad for his sake that he's called it a day, because it's a case of careful what you wish for. Because I could see both sides. Me personally, my personality is different, right? I know how I would want it in terms of it being solid and during the game tactically, where I used to have a thing I was going to go to and I never went because my mum was ill. They had this thing in the American League called the power play, where so that if someone got sin binned or got sent off, where they would just like be solid and they would hold out for that 10 minutes, right? I understand there's a period in the game where you've got to be solid, where you've got to be pragmatic, where you've got to be professional, where you've got to play the percentages. But I was also quite adventurous. I was also quite inventive and, dare I say, experimental. So I just think the team reflected him a little bit. Very, very pragmatic. A lovely guy. Definitely someone you would want to play for, as opposed to a couple of the managers I played for who kept me poor, treated me like shit. But funny how I kept getting selected every week, albeit at a much lower level, but it's the same game. This is where we differ, me and Hudson, because he says, well, players that they know how to play the game. When I played West Germany in 1975, me and Bawley knew how to run the game. We know how to play the game. But I agree with someone who actually coached Alan as a kid, because Doherty wanted to know where they were. So he had them coaching the kids in the evenings, like the likes of Venables and George Graham. People forget George started at Chelsea. And I remember going over to London Colney to watch a
good
game. And
documentary on that.
I went over to London Colney and to watch a game with Chris Turner, and we were looking to get a couple of players in. We got talking to George, and I remember him saying, even top players need structure. Even the top players need structure. So that's where we differ slightly. And I think that's been proven with regards to the international achievements of other nations. You've got players prepared to be humble enough to be coached and be part of a system, be part of a group mentality. I ain't saying we're not. I'm just saying we're not sophisticated enough.
Yeah. I'll pick up a couple of things there. There's a good documentary. Just digressing slightly, apologies. You mentioned George Graham and Terry Venables, both started at Chelsea, both very similar age, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure someone else will. Since Terry Venables passed away, there's been another documentary about Venables, and it's quite a good one. It touches on his relationship with George Graham. So a little recommendation there. But you said also a word, experimentation, and the Euros tournament.
Yeah.
The Euros tournament itself was an expanded competition in terms of teams that qualified, and it went through. So there was a first knockout, quarterfinals, semi-finals, final, as opposed to previously being quarterfinal, semi-final, final. So it had teams finishing third and qualifying for the knockout phase. This was one of our viewers asked this question: what were our thoughts on that being a success or not? The example he used was Ukraine got 4 points, failed to qualify, and you had 2, 3, maybe 4 teams going through to the knockout phase with only 3 points. So do we view that as a successful experiment or not? Me personally, no.
Oh, you're going to be aggrieved. I'd say no. If you're Ukraine, you're going to be aggrieved, didn't you? But the bottom line is, Rob, it's like I said now, it's a brand. England are a brand. It's a brand, and it's brand football. So the bottom line is, it's all about revenue, and that's how it's going to go. It's going to just continue to go that way, and they're going to look for different ways, like they all do, to make money out of it. The only thing I don't subscribe to is with regards to the so-called fatigue of some players. You know, that it goes against the grain of I'm only going to take players that are fit and that are in form. I think he bucked the trend again. Before him, it was done before him. Well before Southgate came along, and I just think we keep shooting ourselves in the foot. Yeah, other nations don't seem to have that problem, even though they have a full fixture list as well. I don't see how the demands are any greater. You might go, I mean, it's no different here, really. You argue France is a one, maybe two horse race. Germany's a two horse race. Italy could be anything. Spain, normally a 2-3 horse race. So the Premier League's no different. But they reckon the gap between the bottom and the top is smaller and the bit in the middle is more condensed. So the opposition's tough. There you can make all sorts of arguments. The bottom line is, goes back to what I said. I think it's a mentality thing. It's a personality thing. I said on the podcast this morning, personality. And this is where I'll differ with Alan, but I just said to him, look, you're the one who's out there, and I'm going to try. If I don't trust you to pick you, then I won't pick you. But if I trust you and I pick you, then I've got to trust what you see when you're out there. But I think it's got to be within a framework, and you've got to be made, tactically aware of how the opposition can be overcome, how they can be defeated. That's just my own personal opinion. You know, you can't play your. They talk about it in cliches now. They use it like he's a street footballer. He's like he's playing over the park with his mates. I didn't see too much of that from Spain. You know, I mean, everything. Yeah, you can go on about your mouth, but I mean, this is where the playing habits are coached and inbred. Understand? Because when defenders did certain things with him, you got a counter to that, and then he had a counter to the counter. And he says, "All right, okay, if you're going to hold the line, I'm just going to dink that ball in behind and fade it in behind for someone to come in and win the header and put it in the back of the net, etc." Loads of little things that you think you could stop it, freeze frame it, and then roll it frame at a time and say, look at the movement there. That's rehearsed. That's training field stuff. So that's what I mean by the coaching aspect of it. Who knows?
You say, come finish.
No, just who knows whether what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know how in depth the opposition go, other countries go compared to how deep we go. What I can't make out is what I said. When you go back through the last 4 championships, or the last 4 championships since he's been in situ, right? So one every 2 years, World Cup, Euros. They're all sitting there with their laptops and their iPads and this and that, and it's what you see. Anyone with any football experience, if it pans back and you see the shape on the field and you see what Croatia have done, and you see what Italy are trying to do, and then you see what's done by the manager, it should have been ahead of the curve. And it weren't, even with the army of delegates that he's got round him. Anyway, let him get on with it. I'm in a no-lose situation. What I predicted has come true. The FA keeps shooting itself in the foot. They keep promoting other people over football people. They employ other people over football people. And I said, I'm not calling it on. I'm not inviting ill health, but I just said, as far as I'm concerned, England won't win anything in my lifetime. I said it on Twitter. I said it in my book. I'm pretty sure I said it in my book. If it ain't in the first book, it's definitely in the second book. Yeah.
It's 100% in your first book, I know, because I've read it. And if anyone who hasn't, who listens to our podcast, get it, buy it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on John's website. We'll say a little bit more about that in a bit, but very much read it. I'm slightly biased, admittedly, but get it, please. One thing we picked up slightly loosely there, not quite a question, but with the FA and the failings, you say is it the manager, is it the players, is it the FA? And you said a little bit about the FA.
Media, supporters, it's all in ingredients, Rob. It's all ingredients at one time or another, or all of the above together.
There's a lot. I was having a debate with a guy on holiday this last week about football. Funnily enough, it's one of my favourite subjects, and obviously the Euros were on. And the point I raised was probably in the last, say, 40 years, I think, I'm going back to my living memory, which is the 1982 World Cup, and our amazing ability to take star players who are unfit or injured Like 82 was
Keegan's back.
Keegan and
Brooking.
Trevor Brooking, I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Brian Robson, pick any tournament from
Yeah.
about 1986 to
Dislocated
1992.
shoulder. Yeah.
We've done it with Beckham, we've done it with Rooney. I think Lineker was, I think it was hepatitis. I can't remember whether it was either Euro 88 or Euro 92. We've touched on it with Harry Kane and his fitness levels at this tournament. So
I remember a
if you
kid.
want to,
I remember
yeah,
a kid. I remember a kid, Rob. There's one name you ain't mentioned. He was like a sponge and unbelievable football intelligence, very humble, um, very decent kid from a decent seemed like a decent upbringing. I had him for a year at Leighton Orient Centre of Excellence. Then Spurs nicked him by the name of Ledley King. And I knew this kid was going to be a player. He was magnificent to coach. And he'd look at you like this, you're coaching him, and you could see him absorbing it. And he'd bump, rehearse, and play. And it stuck like that.
uh,
What did we do? He could only play one game every 10 days. We took him to South Africa because diabolical knees. Capello done the same thing. But everyone you've listed, that's what I said. We shoot ourselves in the foot. But
yeah,
at the time, the supposed cornerstone of one of the talisman, and so they're obliged to take them. Otherwise, there's a public outcry or there's a media outcry.
yeah. That was essentially my question. If I suppose if you're the manager, put yourself in the England manager's shoes. If you've got the free reign and no pressure from above, i.e., the FA or anyone else, you have to pick so and so, don't pick so and so, etc.,
Yeah,
etc. If you know you've got one or two that you would consider talisman for the squad, and you
yeah.
know they're going to have a minimal or even not at all minutes in the tournament, do you take them or do you not?
What you've got to bear in mind, Rob, there's a couple of things. One, I've already said. If you think politics and football, and you can go back to um, Brazil in the 60s, Argentina in the
Yeah,
70s,
that's another good documentary.
the Euros in the 80s, the European nations in the 80s, um, even early post Second World War. If you think politics is not and football are not inextricably linked, then you're sadly mistaken and naive. The other thing you could be sadly mistaken and naive about is sometimes players are included because of who sponsors the FA. And we will only give you X amount and we will only sign this contract if you guarantee that he is part of the squad because he is our boy, right? And we've got a contract with him and he needs to be photographed on the steps getting on the plane to go to a Euros or to a World Cup. That could be another explanation. I don't think it wouldn't be. And I can throw a couple of players out there who it would have involved in bygone tournaments, but I'm not gonna. I'm not
All
gonna.
right. Well, I'll chuck one at you for this
There's a lot of
tournament.
goings on behind the scenes that I know of,
Yeah.
and one of the pundits, supposedly respectable and all over it. You know what I mean? The stories about some of them, they're beyond belief. They're beyond, but they're at the same time they are believable, and they're I've had it confirmed. Put it that way. But anyway, we're straying into murky waters, so I'm not going to. But
I'll
the
try and
point
steer
that,
us back out.
yeah, steer us back over. But the point I'm making is, listen, the point I'm making is that could even have something to do with it. Sponsorship.
Yeah. Well, here's the name I was going to chuck at you for someone who arguably didn't have the greatest tournament, nor did the team. He's unarguably one of the greatest footballers of the last 10, 15 years, Cristiano Ronaldo, and has got untold trophies, goal scoring records, etc., etc. He had, well, not not a great tournament for Portugal. He played, I think, literally every minute. He was, you know, is that a classic example of he will play no matter what?
Probably is. Probably is. It's nice when karma hits home, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because I remember when they between them they got the Wham Rooney up,
Yeah, the winker.
and yeah, and he winked at the camera, and you know what I mean? That's something you don't forget. Um, but yeah, I mean, he would be a prime example, I would think. But it's the same with England.
Yeah.
I mean, where to next? They're talking about he's fancy, Alan. Is Lampard, right?
Okay.
He was at Chelsea at a not particularly good time, volatile. Um,
Yeah, both
and
times.
he both times, and he managed it when they had pressure put on the budget, financial fair play, playing kids, this and that. Fell out with. I didn't know nothing about it, but Hudson said he fell out with a player he shouldn't have fell out with, or someone fell out with someone he shouldn't have fell out with. He probably should have still been at Derby to carry on making his bones, whatever. But you don't turn Chelsea down. But he said quite rightly they'll go there for the same reason, and they know that inevitably it's going to lead to a payoff. Potter's been mentioned, got the degree in emotional intelligence, which he'll need if he gets it. Did well, like players who never had a career. And I should have read the script because I had a fairly decent career. They go abroad and coach. They find someone that's wanting, someone that's with a thirst for knowledge, someone that wants to achieve something. And then if it all comes together and you do well, which he did where he went, you come back here and he did well again at Brighton, got him playing a nice brand of football. And then Chelsea again in his defence, he was there at a volatile time. He took the job. Like Addy said, you know, you go in and you say to the chairman, this is how I want to do it. You say to his staff, this is how I want to do it. You say to his technical director and his advisors who spunk nearly £1 billion, this is how I want to do it. And this is who I want to buy. Or I'm not doing the job. But they go there knowing that, like anything in life, it's leasehold and they're going to get a handsome payoff. But again, in his defence, he was there during a volatile time with a not particularly good team. And then because of financial fair play, they get rid of the players with the club that's in their art because they've been there since as a kid, and they bring in overpaid, underachieving mercenaries. Well, we've all experienced that one at whatever level you care to name. Um, the other one, Pochettino, I think that's a non-starter from the off. What do you have at your place? 4 years, 5 years at Spurs, 4 years at Southampton.
Probably less than four, I think, but yeah,
Yeah,
not a long time.
yeah. Blew the European Cup final against Liverpool after giving a penalty away in the first 38 seconds, 35 seconds, whatever it was. I knew there was going to be no way back after that. His main attribute, according to Harry's dad, is he's provides a lot of feel-good factor and is a gentleman and makes everybody feel important and relaxed.
Bit like Southgate then.
Well, so it might be the thing, but I think it's a non-starter. The Argentinians hate us. It's time he's taking the piss. You know what I mean? They could, like you'd see the Beckham documentary, the guy who interviews him in Spain when he's sitting there in bare feet. He's gone like linear with regards to the history between us and Spain and where Beckham's going, and then between us and Argentina. The Argentinians call us pirates, and they hate us because of the Falklands, etc., etc. He's come over here and you know, schmoozed everyone and been charming. Did he win a one-horse race in France? I think he won the one-horse race in France. And then
I think he did.
yeah, and then come a thing which was a cardinal rule. You know, Chelsea don't go to Spurs, Spurs don't go to Chelsea. Got a nice payoff there. You know, so I just don't think it don't fit the criteria. You know, I mean, if it's about being a nice guy and being a gentleman and providing feel good factor and making everyone feel important, I don't know, bring in someone who teaches etiquette rather than coaches football. You know what I mean? I don't know what that's about.
Like I'll draw a line under that to paraphrase you, John, from your book and from on podcasts. They're employing teachers rather than coaches, or I think I'm right in saying. And
Yeah.
the FA.
Well, I think the FA when Cruyff said we need more, we've got we need more. We've got loads of coaches. We don't need more coaches. We need more teachers. I think the FA took it literally. And
Mhm.
they started getting headmasters and people out of primary schools and secondary schools. So I don't think Cruyff meant that.
No, I could probably categorically say that he didn't, and
Yeah, yeah.
didn't mean it quite like that. Right, we've got the last 10 minutes of this episode, so we'll maybe one more question. Spain obviously won the tournament; they won all 7 games. Never been done before, I believe,
Mm,
to go through with a clean sweep.
mm.
The tournament itself has been labelled as dull by a lot of pundits, whether and armchair managers, and there's millions of them, as you alluded to.
Yeah, I'm one of them
Did
now.
any? I'm definitely one of them, that's for sure. Did
Yeah.
Did anyone else in the tournament aside from Spain? I mean, as a team, impress you?
I
Anyone?
thought Holland had a go. I thought they had a go. I thought they had a good game plan. And I thought they were a threat. And I thought, you know, that was probably one of two of our best games. You know what I mean? Um, that I said France or Spain will win it. And then when they played each other, I said whoever wins this offense, I said it on Twitter, they'll probably win the tournament, probably gone to win the
Mm,
tournament. And I just think Spain confirmed what I said. You know, all this. Again, I'm gonna repeat it. I'll get the thing of momentum because I was involved in it. I was involved in a downward spiral that had already taken place. It was already approaching rock bottom at Chelsea, and I was in a upward trajectory at Leyton Orient, and actually another one at Gillingham. We just missed out on promotion. Um, Millwall was a bit sort of middle of the road. Um, I understand the concept of that momentum, but I don't understand the thing about we're peaking at the right time. So it's what I said. So Spain peaked at the right time every time. They peaked in every game, and you peak when you're walking up the tunnel waiting for the first whistle, and then you peak from the first whistle to the last whistle. That's when you peak, and then you come down slowly, and then you peak again, and that's tournament football. Um, I don't get it. I think it's a mindset, a mentality, and I don't think we're quite got it yet. I think it needs to be there's an happy medium, and I just think we were lacking the other side of it, which is my side, the intensity side. And it's all very well sitting there relaxed and relaying that to the players. Sometimes you need to convey a sense of urgency, a sense of adventure, a sense of being like proactive, a sense of being positive, a sense of being experimental, being daring. And I thought we were none of that. You know what I mean? So it just remains to be seen. It could be as you were, or it could be you know, a brave new dawn, a new era. Someone might come in like Potter. Me personally, I looked at the enterprising stuff he played with players with limited ability at Bournemouth, and what he's done with the high-ranking pros at Newcastle, Eddie Howe. And I said that from way back when. And even when West Ham were appointing a manager when he was between jobs, I said you could do a lot worse than appoint Eddie Howe. You know, so he's got a thing. He's got a soft spot for Lampard because he says he got him to Chelsea because he was getting hammered at West Ham. Pardon the pun. I'd say, well, a funny thing was I'd already recommended him to Manchester City. And then you get like that's what I mean by the media. You know, fucking morons like Johnny Vaughan saying that I said I discovered him. I never. I saw him play a few games. I saw him play the games that I was sent to watch him play by Man City by a guy named Jimmy Frizzell. And I just said, well, he's just coming up to 18. I said, get him while he's worth the money. Because he's got, and I listed his thing, his assets, what he struggled at, how he reacted to adversity. I see him get hammered 3-0 at Highbury. He was up against Vieira and Petit. West Ham got beat 3-0. And I was sitting in the director's box with my oldest daughter, funny enough, watching the game. She said, Dad, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm just making me notes for the scouting report. Yeah, so he's got a soft spot for him. I think in terms of the way he carries himself, the way he approaches football is attack minded. Uh, and you know the way he conducts himself, he can show a little bit of intensity and he's hurt without overreacting like I did to his Eddie Howe. Potter wouldn't be my cup of tea. Other than that, yeah, it remains to be seen. Definitely don't want to entertain any foreigners. Um,
No, I mean,
I'm not being little Englander by that, Rob. You know, I'm just saying. No, listen, what I'm saying. I'm in a no lose
no, don't.
situation. I said to you, and this is the final point I'm going to make. Right? If the FA appoint another foreign manager, what it confirms is it confirms I'm right. It confirms what I said from 1988 onwards. It confirms the fact that the syllabus provided by the Football Association, right, is not good enough to produce good English coaches and managers who, as a consequence, are not getting the top English jobs. And as a consequence of that, not winning trophies. So as a consequence of that, they're not getting the recognition whereby they can become an international manager. So it can all be traced back home. It can all be traced back home to where it all started. So if the syllabus had been enhanced when I said it should have been, and in this direction and this direction and this direction, and if it was coached by proper football people, and if proper football people were held all the jobs as underlings instead of university graduates who've never kicked a ball, right? Then it might have been a lot different. If they hadn't fallen out, one faction of the FA with another faction, so like ergo Cartwright and Grady and Charles Hughes hadn't thing, and they never ended up not getting the job because of disagreements over this and that and working conditions and how they were going to coach the game. Then maybe we'd be level. I still think we're a few years of probably a decade behind, because the next not a lot of Sackers are now 10 years old, 11 years old, and my belief is between 11 and 16 is when you learn the game. That's through my own personal individual experience. Between the ages of 11, under 12, right, 11 years of age, and 16 is when you learn the game. Then from 16 onwards is when you carry on practicing what you've learned. You understand? And that repetition, that's everything. That's technique, that's framework, team strategy, different defensive strategies, attacking strategies, formations, set pieces. There's nothing that ain't been tried, right? It's nothing that ain't been tried. So you've got to find a way to reinvent it and had that intensity needed to win a tournament, which I don't think we had.
No, can't disagree. We just over last minute of this final episode this evening. So I've now said it before. I will say it again. Thank you very much to everyone who watches, listens, subscribes to John's channel on YouTube. Please share it. Tell your mates at work. Tell your mates down the pub. Tell your mates wherever. Anyone who's interested in football needs to watch and listen to John. Please spread the word.
Yeah,
thank you very much from me.
Hopefully, Rob, between us, we provide the odd nugget in each episode. I like to think in these 3 episodes, there's been one in each, or one or more in each. And we've shed light on a couple of things that other people might not have been aware of. Thank you again for your time. And thanks to everyone that takes the time and trouble throughout the week to watch what we record. It's much appreciated. And please like, share, and subscribe. Okay. Cheers, everyone.
Absolutely endorse that. Cheers, everyone. John, I'll bring you a match ball when I'm up in London in a week or so.
Yeah, sign it. Yeah. Unofficial hat trick. It's never been done. I'll see you later, mate. Have a good few days, huh?
Good night.
Cheers, mate. No night.